Okay, welcome to the CXC Global 1200 trophy race of the 2012 Formula V National Challenge. Stevie Butcher on pole.
Followed by Matt Pearce on the left-hand side of the front row, David Cutts. Michael Gale has taken fourth position for the start of this race, and here we are as a line-up coming into the first corner. Steve Butcher, Matt Pearce, David Cutts, Michael Gale, as I've said, Andrew Grevis-James, great fifth position for the start of this race.
That was Alan Yeo taking a bit of a wide line through turn one there.
But he kept it on the track, so how many laps to go? 20 laps to go in this race.
20 laps to go, plenty of racing miles to go.
Alright, so let's see if we call the excitement in this race as they go nose and tail for the first time.
There's still contested coming through with there's Rob Cowell with Bruce Wells. Bruce Wells fallen back a couple of spots. Oh well, he had a DNF in heat 2.
Look at Matt Pearce. He's looking serious, isn't he, for this race? He doesn't want to get Steve Butcher to get away from him to break that toe, because then he might never have a chance to keep up ahead.
There's Bruce Perry looking pretty racy. Yeah, Matty Pearce is all over the back here of Stevie Butcher here. If he gets a good run out, he could probably have a look at the inside into the final corner. And he has got a good run.
That's right, Butcher going to the right-hand side a little bit to block the line. Let's see, this could be a make or break moment as they go through.
Oh, they've touched!
Oh, look what's happened!
Oh, they touched again!
Butcher!
He's
found
Phil
that way.
Contessa spins in sympathy.
Oh, and
Butcher's going.
Matt Pearce, Steve Butcher, did they come together?
Bruce Perry's had to take impulsive action. They're all going.
Now, let's see, as we recover the situation here, what does all this mean for the...
Phil Contessa's going slowly. He's got a problem, but he's spun on his own. He didn't touch.
He did. That means David Cutts is leading this race. One lap in, he's led the first lap of this final 1200 trophy race.
Okay, Michael Gale is right there in second, and
let's see what's happened to Steve Butcher.
Okay, there's Peter McDonald. There's Steve Butcher.
He has recovered, but he's so far back. Will he have the pace to be able to catch up in the next 19 laps?
Well, we did say that as a bookie you wouldn't put your money on Steve Butcher because he's found every single which way to lose a national challenge.
Oh well, but I never thought he would have done it this way in the first lap of a 20-lap race.
Yeah, normally he does it on the last lap, on the last corner. Exactly. But anyway.
So, David Cutts in a 1200 specification, historic specification, Formula V, leading the 1200 class. Okay. This is exciting stuff.
But Butcher has got plenty of time. If there's nothing wrong with that car, he has got lots of time because there is still 19 laps to go. David Cutts, Michael Gale's been pretty strong this weekend, so I mean he could set a pretty good pace as well.
Okay, well maybe being so close to David so early in the race might inspire Michael and Bernie to sort of just keep their foot down a little bit more.
And Andrew Grevis-James, he's been up there for a fair bit as well.
And Stephen, look, there's only 2 seconds between David Cutts there in the blue car and Stephen Wood there in the yellow and white car just going through off the tree now.
Top 5 have actually got quite a big gap here, and there's Bruce Welsh on top of Rod Cowell.
That's right, the excitement's not stopping.
Rod Cowell's been, this is as far forward as he's been all weekend, and that's probably due to the fact that as the more miles you get, the better you get to know the track.
Stephen Butcher's passed Peter McDonald there on that lap, so he is passing some of the 1200 competitors.
I think in the background down the straight there, I think I saw the Pearce car pulling into the pits as well. He might have a problem after that contact.
Okay, so Matt Pearce out of sight.
Okay, well, let's just follow that and just see if it was that car. There goes Butcher up the inside of Rob Cowell.
Well, Matt Pearce nowhere to be seen. Bruce Perry going through.
Oh no, is that Matt Pearce there? There's Matt Pearce.
That is Matt. He has recovered, but he's a long way behind.
He is
Bruce
a long
Pearce,
way to the back.
Behind Steve Butcher, so maybe he needed four-wheel drive to get out of that sand trap.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so here's James Nagle looking at Peter McDonald up the...
Coming onto the back straight.
Oh, a little bit of a slide.
That's right. These guys looking racy.
Yeah, he's going to go up the inside here.
Really
better part of Bella.
No, not with so long to go, okay? So obviously James just sizing Peter McDonald up.
Okay, so
back to the front.
He's Cutsy in the lead with Michael Gale in second, Bernie Cannon third, Andrew Grevis-Jones followed by Stevie Wood.
Right, and Cutsy, he's actually not pulling out away from Michael Gale and Bernie Cannon at all.
Okay, here's Butcher and Brucey Welch together. Now these two have got history. They did make contact on the last lap of the last corner of the national title last year.
Right,
whilst battling for the lead.
Look, Steve Butcher, I reckon he's made up 2 to 3 seconds on that lap alone.
Yeah, well, as we said, he has got plenty of time, so it's going to be interesting to see if he has the pace to do the job that he needs to do.
Right, but we've got to look at the gap between David Cutts and Michael Gale and Bernie Cannon back to Steve Butcher, and so
Yeah,
Steve
okay.
may be passing some cars.
So they're
around him at the
They're
moment.
coming into the fish hook, and there's Butcher coming down the hill now. So
I would say that gap has reduced.
I'd suggest it has, and he is pulling away from Bruce Welsh as well. So
Well, this will be the exciting thing to watch as this
there's James
race
Nagle going around the
progresses.
outside of Peter McDonald. I don't think so.
Okay, Peter, he's found speed, certainly faster than he was earlier in the weekend.
Okay, so Cutsy coming, nice bit of aggression through the left, the right hander there. Coming in the final corner with Michael Gale getting a good break.
Michael actually closed up on the leader. Michael, second place, closed up on the leader under brake. There's Butcher. He's looking angry, isn't he? He's looking fast, so no doubt he'll be aware that he's catching the
Peter
lead.
McDonald.
Side by side, James Nagle on Rod Cowald.
Yep, I think they both went up on the
That's
inside.
right. Look, you can visibly see that gap reduce.
Oh,
so
Michael Gale's looking at David Cutts there.
right, the gaps are reducing everywhere. Butcher is closing, but has he got enough time?
Okay, so Michael Gale, Bernie Cannon and David Cutts are pulling away from Andrew Grievous-Jones. Butcher's
Right.
pulling away from Brucey Welsh there. That's James Nagle going up the inside of Peter McDonald.
There's exciting stuff happening right throughout this field at the moment. So it's all coming together after 3 heats earlier in the weekend.
I know why Bruce Perry is a bit further back than he's expected.
This is
Because he's missing his sparring buddy.
Well, no doubt that's what it is. Jeff Bassingthwaite's
Jeff
not here.
Bassingthwaite's not running.
So he's lost that rhythm. But look, I reckon this is great driving from Michael Gale and Bernie Cannon, especially to be able to be, within 2 or 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, Butcher's a bit closer to this group now as well.
That's visibly closing. So will be David Cutts and Michael Gale. Look, Michael's right on David's tail. Will they be able to keep ahead of Steve Butcher? Are there enough laps left?
There certainly are. There's still probably got to be 16 odd laps to go. So there's plenty of time. There's Steve Wood looking a bit racy. There's Butcher catching those two as well.
Stephen Butcher, look, he looks like he hasn't driven faster.
Actually, there you go. Michael Gale up the inside of David Cutts.
Michael Gale leading the 2012 Australian Formula V national titles final race.
Okay, there's Butcher coming through, chasing down Stevie Wood. Good friends, the pair of those guys.
Okay, Peter McDonald in the Black Kestrel.
Okay, so Bruce Perry's actually closer to them guys.
Look at this is really good racing on everyone's speed up. Oh, Steve Butcher, I think he must have made up, 10, 15 seconds in the last 2 laps. What do you think?
Goes, inside one.
Inside one,
yeah,
but not inside the other.
Like I said, they're pretty good friends there, Steve Wood and Steve Butcher, so I would have suggested that Steve Wood would have never made that too difficult, even for his own sacrifice.
Oh, look, we know they're good friends, but we know Stephen Wood, he's got that competitive spirit probably as much as anyone.
Yeah, although he could also feel that if Steve Butcher's faster, I'll let him through and let him pull me through with him.
Right, or no.
There you go. Look at this, Bernie Cannon up the inside of Cutts. No.
Or Steve Butcher might get no more dyno tunes in the next 2 years or so. Okay.
There you go. Butcher's ahead of Andrew Grievous-Jones now as well, so he's up to 4th. So from near on the rear of the grid back up to 4th. So he's done a good fight back thus far. And he's now got to put his head down and try and catch those top 3.
Okay, you see the cars a bit further back, but still...
There you go, Bruce Perry up the inside of Peter McDonald.
They're still driving flat out using all the race circuits, and it doesn't matter where they are in this race, they're still driving as hard as they can.
So Michael Gale, David Cutts and Bernie Cannon, there your lead 3.
Look, Steve Butcher again, he's only about 6 or 7 seconds off the lead. There he goes.
Okay.
Right up to 4th place, so he was back in about 12th or 13th place. Now he's up to 4th.
Okay, well, he's had the car speed all weekend. He just needs to now pull it out and make sure that there could be some damage to that car as well. I mean, they made contact twice, so there's very good potential that something could still fail on the vehicle.
Or conversely,
rear lockup.
That may have helped him fix up the wheel alignment. So.
It very well could have. Little bit of rear toe in or something to just help the car turn a bit.
Okay, so there's Butcher, 4th place.
There you go. Here goes Bruce Perry up the inside of James Nagle.
That's right, Bruce. These guys, they may not be in contention for the lead, I guess, but they're all in contention for having great fun and driving.
David Cutts back up the inside of Michael Gale, and Bernie going to go with him? No.
Okay, Cutts back to the lead. Sky Blue 1982 Spectre.
Okay, Butcher's pulling away from Andrew Grievous-Jones and Stevie Wood. They'd like to go with him, but they haven't been able to all weekend.
Okay.
James Nagle back up the inside of Bruce Perry.
Right, they'll be wheel to wheel and
swapping lap for lap those two.
Right, Peter McDonald and.
Okay, these 3 are quite tight actually. David Cutts, Michael Gale, and Bernie Cannon are very, very tightly battled together.
This is really great to see. No doubt, David, he never drives at anything other than 11 or 12 tenths in the race. So
Okay,
Bernie and Steve and Michael, they've found something great to see.
Butcher's made a fair bit of ground up. He's almost at the right turn now when the boys are entering the fish hook.
Okay. Although Butcher's got a clear speed advantage, he's not exactly 4 or 5 seconds a lap faster. It's really only 1 or 2 seconds. So
Yeah, but two seconds a lap when you've got to make 6 seconds up, and there's still like what 14 laps to go or something.
That's right. But then he's got a clear run as well. So
That's right. He's got no traffic. He's able just to put his head down and focus on a good clean line and don't worry about racing.
Okay, first, second, third, and fourth.
Butcher's almost in the same shot now. So Michael Gale.
Michael.
Oh, and Bernie had to take evasive action, so
yeah,
Butcher just goes straight through.
That's right.
Butcher goes from 4th to 2nd in the sweep of a accelerator pedal.
That ensured that Steve Butcher may not have lost 3 or 4 seconds trying to fight for that position. But
And now if you think about it, David Cutts is in a historic car, so Butcher's back in the lead of the national title in a technical sense.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Steve would have known that at the time, is knowing that as he's going round.
No, he would want to win it on just merit.
Exactly. So Steve Butcher knocked out of the lead at the last corner of the first lap, and 15 laps later, here he is back in the effective 1200 open class lead.
But he won't see it that way. He'll see it as second because David Cutts has got a lead, and Bernie Cannon's still there in third, even though he had to hit the brakes hard.
Right, Andrew Griffiths-James, he's catching Bernie, and Steve Wood in great to see in 5th place in this race.
And actually Michael Gale's just behind him as well, so he didn't lose too much with his spin.
No, well, he went round backwards in the dirt and pirouetted deliberately to pull the car up straight and get back on the circuit. I'm
not sure that David Cutts has got as much speed in this final as he did in some of the earlier heats. In the heats he pulled away from both Bernie and Michael Gale, and he was in a big thick battle with those two during this race early on.
Well, that's possibly true, but I know that if I was on David Cutts' tail, that would inspire me to drive a lot faster and hopefully hang on to him as much as possible. So maybe there was a bit of that in it as well.
Well, in saying that, I think, as you said, Bernie Cannon's now fallen back to Andrew Griffiths-Jones, who they were pulling away from earlier. So there's probably a fair bit of that.
All right, so here we are.
Butcher.
Here's the race for the race lead. David Cutts, Stephen Butcher.
Definitely made plenty of ground in this last 2 laps.
He certainly has. Obviously, he's looking like the rest of the race might go his way.
Well, it's still too early to say that because, as I said, they made contact twice. You don't know if there's damage to a tyre, damage to anything.
Exactly as they're coming on the back.
Actually, David's made a bit of ground on Butcher coming through the fish hook.
Well, Stephen probably drove with 11/10 through the fish hook and locked up a brake and went wide.
Yep, David went a little bit twitchy there through the final corner. He's trying.
Okay.
Here you go. He's James Nagle and Bruce Perry. They've been swapping places every lap.
Pretty well equal on speed down that back straight, and only the braking really separates.
So Bruce passes him into the final corner, and I'm sure that James Nagle probably passes him back down the straight.
Okay. David Cutts still has the lead. Butcher still hasn't passed him. It's not that easy after all. Bernie Cannon, Andrew Griffiths-James, and Stephen Wood in 5th place.
Great job, and then Michael Gale follows this group, so even with his spin, he's still in there. Okay, he'll be kicking himself, actually, Michael Gale, having led the Australian National 1200 title.
Look at Butcher, he's actually faster than David through the corners as well as out of the corners. So very smooth driving by
coming down the
Butcher
hill
in that Stinger.
He's still got plenty of time. There's still the best part of 12 laps to go, so he knows he doesn't need to rush it. He will see a lap board. So he will know the position he's in. So he's got time.
Okay.
He'll probably wait for the straight. He probably is in a position to go down the inside here, but he'll probably wait for the straight as you're better off in that position of the circuit.
Certainly should be no risks in what they do here. But David Cutts bravely hanging on to that lead, knowing that he's got a car closing up on him with more power. There he is, Steve Butcher taking the outright lead of this race. The finals of the 2012 Formula V national titles in the 1200 class.
So on lap 12 he did that. So he's taken the lead back on lap 12. So he's got 8 laps to go, and on lap 12 he's gone from last to first.
Well, the interest for the lead now will be to see if David Cutts can hang on to Steve Butcher. And
Peter McDonald up the inside of James Nagle, great job. Rob Caywald up the inside of... So Bruce Perry's actually fallen back 3 spots there.
Okay.
David had almost looked like he was going to have a look at Butcher there as well.
Alright, so David's still on the tail of Butcher. David needs to be close enough or not fall too far back in case Steve Butcher runs wide and goes off the track.
Off the sack.
Well, he might do that as well, but maybe not at the moment, maybe later on. But David needs to be within catching distance in case anything happens to Stephen Butcher.
Okay, we haven't seen Matt Pearce either. So Matt Pearce was at the back of the field after that incident. He's definitely come to adversity because he's certainly been as quick as Butcher throughout the course of the weekend. So, Butcher's made his way through. Matty Pearce hasn't been able to. So I'm sure that car's pulled into the pits for, I guess, a retirement.
And that's sad to see. Matt, obviously one of the great of the recent times in 1600 drivers in Formula V in New South Wales.
Yeah, he's always sideways in the 1600.
Exactly. He knows how to hang the tail in every car, whether it's a Jacer or anything else he's owned previously.
Okay, so Peter McDonald, James Nagle, Rob Carwell, and Bruce Perry's fallen back off. I wonder if Bruce has got a little bit of an issue going here because he was battling with that group and he's fallen right off.
Things have settled down now that Butcher's taken the lead and Michael Gale's backed off.
Okay, so David Cutts is still staying with Butcher here. He's lost a car length or so, but he's still close enough to get pulled along if he's if that's what he needs to do to stay there. And as you said earlier, be in a position to bite if Butcher hits adversity.
In particular, he needs to be in that turbulent air and the slipstream region. That effectively gives the following car an extra few horsepower of less drag that allows them just to keep at the same speed. So if Butcher manages to break away enough to mean that David Cutts falls out of that turbulent air, then that's a big advantage for Butcher because he'll be able to pull away even faster.
Yeah, big moment there from Peter McDonald. He's in the dirt.
Peter's run wide in the Kestrel. He's run extremely wide. Looks like he's
got a lawnmower going. He is in pit lane.
Did he just miss the pit entrance, or did he say, "Oh well, I've gone that far off the track, and
might as well just keep going"?
Might as well keep going down the pit lane, I guess.
I've actually done that once at Phillip Island before. Got run off the track at the Honda hairpin and was up the exit. I thought, oh, I might as well keep going last lap.
Is that right? Okay. So you thought you'd cut the race short? Okay.
Anyway, that's another story.
Well, at least you haven't lost control in the pit entry at Phillip Island, have you? I did that in the run with you, but that's another story. Okay.
Alright, so Butcher's actually got a couple of car lengths now here on Cutsy, so he might... Oh, there's a bit of smoke there. Is that hopefully not some sort of a drama coming
there was a touch of smoke coming out of the left-hand rocker cover.
Yeah, the contact came from the right-hand side, so might be okay.
Well, with 5 or 6 laps to go, Stephen Butcher hasn't won this race yet.
Actually, if I was a bookkeeper, I'd be actually putting more money on which way Butcher could find to try and lose a national title. He has had wheels fall off. He's had plenty of contact. He's thrown it in the sand traps on a few occasions, both at Baskerville and Barbagallo. So, he's found plenty of different ways to lose national titles.
That's right, but regardless...
up the inside, Andrew Griffiths-Jones on Bernie Cannon. Yeah, nice aggressive move. He'll stick with that.
That's third place. He's lost third place, the podium position. So let's watch to see what Bernie Cannon will do.
Actually, we haven't seen Michael Gale come back from his earlier spin. I haven't seen where he's at. So Butcher's still in the lead. David Cutts is still a few car lengths behind. He's not letting that go. There's Andrew Griffiths-Jones and Bernie Cannon and Steve Wood.
Not a lot of distance really between Steve Butcher all the way back to Steve Wood here. Great shot of Steve Wood coming down the hill flat in third gear.
It certainly is. So here comes Stevie Butcher through the final, through the fish hook. I think it was a bit deceiving earlier because if you look at the distance back to Steve Wood and that battling group, it's actually further than what it looked like in that previous shot.
Okay.
Bit of what's that? Movie magic, TV magic.
No doubt, a bit of editing there. But we've mentioned
Griffith Jones.
We've mentioned Steve Butcher, and it's a Stinger Racing Cars Stinger. But Steve is Mr. Stinger, of course. He builds the cars, gets all the bodies made, and even builds the chassis directly himself.
Andrew Griffith Jones up the inside of Bernie Cannon allows Steve Wood to have a look. No, maybe get a run up the hill. Here's James Nagle, Rob Cowell, and Bruce Perry. Okay. Bruce Perry's fallen back quite a bit here because he was battling. I know he was battling this group.
But he is very fast through that first corner at the end.
Actually, who we haven't seen for a while is Bruce Welch.
Bruce not there.
So I wonder what happened to Bruce Welch.
Probably in pit lane enjoying a nice cold drink after all this heat.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. He's actually dropped back a fair amount.
I thought 20 laps around Wakefield, he might be getting a bit sore arms because there's not many rest periods at Wakefield. You've got to work fairly hard in your vehicle.
And the back straight is a very short back straight, and the main straight is not much longer. So
well, in the 1600 you only get up to about 160k. So the 1200, you probably couldn't get more than, what, 150?
Something like that, I'd imagine, yes. All right, this is the fight for third place. Andrew Griffiths-Jones in the white altar-bodied Spectre, followed by
Bernie on the inside.
Cannon down the inside. He's fought and...
No, Andrew Griffiths-Jones, he's holding on to it. Stevie Wood, he's going to go with him. No.
Now, let's see, which way is Andrew Griffiths-Jones
Okay,
going?
Butcher's pulled away from Dave Cuts here. That's broken the toe.
Okay,
So let's see if he drives away now, because that toe's gone. So David, if David can pull that back up, he'll be doing a great job.
Being a very safe driver. He's really taking a lot of risks. He wants that third position back, and he's going to fight to get it back.
Well, that's all a bit of good curve there from James Nagel. You probably don't like that curve on the inside, because pushing towards the curve on the outside, and it's beyond the curve on the outside is dirt.
There's one smoke coming out of the inside, which is definitely.
Maybe a gear change. They generally haven't got a down change, an up change.
Actually,
Look here, there's Butcher coming out of that. There's Taxi coming out now. The boys are
maybe the cars in third, fourth, and fifth are just really quick through those corners and make up a lot of ground.
Oh, you've got my vote.
There we are.
There's Griffiths-Jones, followed by Bernie's going to have another look coming
Bernie's
up.
got the run this time, surely. Yes, he does. He actually takes him before the corner.
See if he runs him wide this time.
Will he run him wide and block him? It
looks like he has, but Andrew Griffiths-Jones could get the toe.
There's a bit of a toe here. We'll see that in a second or two. Butcher with a very safe lead.
Okay, so David will probably play smart from here on, realising that he probably can't do much about Butcher. And
in the background, Bernie Cannon, he keeps that third place. No, he doesn't.
Griffiths-Jones
Only held it for about 400 or 500 metres.
Hence the reason why sometimes it's smarter not to make a pass on the short back straight. Oh, Bernie!
It's Bernie with
it over and under.
Over. No, it's over and under, is it? Or is it under and over?
I don't know, but let's go over and under and over and out.
Okay.
James Nagel, up
Doing
the inside.
Same thing, maybe.
What is it? Over and under or under and over?
Yes. Okay, Steve Butcher.
Running to the curbs on the exit, so he is pushing.
Gee, that track got really steep then, didn't it?
Oh man, it's the longer you get, the more blurry the vision gets.
Definitely so.
There goes Butcher through the fishhook. He's taking a wide line through there as well, which is not too bad a line. Cassie's doing a fairly similar line there because he's doing a fairly late apex.
Right. Okay. Second place, David Cuts in that beautiful, all original Spectre.
Was it Pram City originally? Or something?
No, originally David funded his own racing, and Pram City came along a few years later, and in a new dark blue livery with yellow Pram City sponsorship signs, and that's what he became most famous in. Highly respected driver in the 80s and the 90s, Australia-wide.
Well, he's still a highly respected driver.
Exactly, and
Butcher's pulling away here.
That's right. David now restricts himself to historic racing every now and then, except for this one-off, because he thought he might have had a real shot at winning or second. And that's proving to be correct.
Okay, so there was Stevie Wood having a good look at Andrew Griffiths-Jones there, and there's Michael Gale coming back. So Michael Gale's still got a little bit of time. There's probably only a couple of laps to go.
He's made up ground now, so he's knocking on the door of this third place, or this race for third place. Great to see him up there.
It has taken him a while to get there, because he had really good pace early in this race.
Well, that's a sign that maybe the pack of cars ahead, they're all lifting their game as the weekend's gone by, and they've reached their peak, obviously at the right time in the final.
Okay. So who's actually holding third place at the moment? He's Bernie Cannon, and
Bernie's got a bit of a gap there now.
He has got a bit of a gap.
Now that should be a race winning or a third place winning gap if he can hold that, of course. So you wouldn't expect fourth, fifth, and sixth to be able to catch him now that they're out of that slipstream. But anything can happen.
Anything certainly can happen, and the other thing that will happen is as the cars behind him get into more of a battle, they slow themselves up, and Bernie can concentrate on his race lines and keep moving away.
Right, well, we're approaching the end of this race, only 3 or 4 laps left to go. So the pressure's building now. I'm sure Stephen Butcher might be losing a bit of his concentration, probably thinking about the race win and not about hoisting that elusive Nationals trophy that he's been chasing for 20 years.
He did win the national title last year for 19 hours, and then he had it rescinded by the stewards of the meeting. Last lap, Butcher will be taking things very, very carefully here. Actually, he's coming up to lap traffic.
Certainly no reason for him to take any risk. David Cuts, he'd have to pull out an enormous effort to make any inroads into Butcher's lead from now on.
So Bernie Cannon's got a pretty solid second or third place there, and
Bernie is consolidated. He's fought to win that third place back throughout this race.
He certainly has. And,
fighting spirit by Bernie Cannon.
Jones.
What's going to happen
Stevie
here?
Wood. Oh, Michael Gale.
That's 4th, 5th and 6th.
Andrew Grievous-Jones holds position.
4th, 5th and 6th on the last lap. Last lap excitement.
Okay, so this is Phil Contessa and Alan Yeo.
Unfortunately, they couldn't consolidate on that incident, that race incident.
Okay, Butcher's catching these guys here. I'm sure he's not going to make any attempt to pass these guys.
Right.
He's going to keep it very, very safe. You know, this is the national title that he's been seeking for 20 years.
That's it. After all this time and effort, I would imagine he's a bit excited at the moment. What do you think?
I reckon he'd also be a fair bit tired as well.
Well,
last corner, down the straight, Stevie Butcher.
And Bernie Cannon there in third. David Cutts, you might see just ahead of him.
Okay, Andrew Grievous-Jones has held position. There's somebody in the dirt again. That's Michael Gale again.
Twice in one lap, or is that 3 times in one lap?
And that's 3. And Stevie Wood's in the grass in the background. They've got contact, actually. Hang on. Look, his nose is on the ground.
On the last lap.
Him and Steve Woods had contact.
Mate, this is sheep stations.
It
wow.
certainly is. And they were only fighting for 5th.
Okay,
The back of the car doesn't look too good either.
Right now, Stephen Butcher.
Yeah, the straight, he's zigzagging. Yeah, Stevie Butcher, 2012 1200 national champion.
You've finally done it, Butcher. Well done, Stevie.
David Cutts, second place. Solid drive all weekend.
Now that's a champion's drive, really. A legend's drive.
And there's Bernie Cannon, taken third. Great hand comes out of the cockpit. He's stoked.
And he fought to take that position back. That is your position, Bernie. Well done.
Andrew Grievous-Jones, 4th position.
Great drive from this interstate and never raced here before.
And who's that? Bruce Welsh.
Bruce Welsh.
Takes 5th.
He's
comes from nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Great to see you, Bruce. Thanks for the drive over.
Okay. So the CXC Global 1200 trophy race, the 2012 National Championship, Stevie Butcher, after 20 years of trying, finally takes his win for CXC Team Stinger. David Cutts, second place, first historic. Bernie Cannon, third place in the race, second in the 1200 class. And Andrew Grievous-Jones, 4th place in the outright, but takes 3rd place in the outright class.
Right, and a great drive by Bruce Welsh. 4,000 kilometres to get here for represent Auto Masters, his sponsor, all the way from Perth, Western Australia, followed by New South Wales Michael Gale, Rod Cowald and James Nagle.